So today we're talking about different philosophies in education. My name is Kathleen Jasper, and I have been helping teachers and prospective leaders pass their certification exams. And I conduct lots of videos on the process of teaching, pedagogy, and practice. And today we're going to determine what our philosophy in education is. If you are in a College of Education course, maybe you're in your undergrad or your master's course, or you're just kind of wondering what your philosophy of education is, this is going to be the video for you. Let's get started. So today we're going to go over 7 major philosophies in education. Now, these are not every single philosophy in education. There are more, but these are the main 7 that are talked about a lot in the College of Education and your master's program and things like that. And I find that it helps to kind of understand where we fall in these kind of general philosophies to understand why we are becoming teachers, why we are teaching. And they are very different. Just like if you look in your school building, all the teachers are very, very different. Their philosophies are different. Their life experiences are different. The teachers that they have encountered have impacted them in different ways. And so you're not going to have one perfect philosophy. There is no one better philosophy than another. They all kind of work together. And I assume that you will identify with several different philosophies. Very rarely is a person like, I am just this philosophy. I find that most teachers have a combination of some or even all of these philosophies when they become teachers. Now, a lot of this is covered in my book, Teach: A Survival Guide for New Educators. I'll link this in the description, but this book kind of covers that and more, but I wanted to go over it this week in our YouTube videos. So let's talk about the 7 major philosophies I'm going to go over today. All right, so we're going to start with the more old-fashioned, moving into more, I guess, modern, but they kind of span time. So that's not really the way you need to think about it all the time. But we will start now with perennialism. Okay, so when you think of perennialism, this is like the emphasis on classic works of literature, art. This is kind of like the philosophy that there are universal truths in education. And people who are perennialists believe that education should develop rational thought. This is sort of an old-fashioned way of thinking about education, but many of our teachers were perennialist, right? We had to read the works of Homer and Milton. I was an English major, so I remember reading Milton in college, and it was horrible at the time. But these were works that impacted me later in my life, and my perennialist English teachers in my college were right. They did impact me. Maybe not at the moment I was reading them, but certainly later on in life. This, someone who might teach math maybe understands that the foundations of math are so important in order to, have an understanding of the world, scientific concepts, universal scientific concepts. So these are like your old-fashioned teachers who are making you read those books you don't necessarily want to read, or maybe making you do long division before you learn to use a calculator, because they believe that these skills, these things are so important in order to develop as a human being. The next philosophy is Essentialism. Now, this comes from the thought of like drill and practice. So definitely math teachers kind of fall in this, and it's important because with math, we have math drills and practice, right? You have that muscle memory in math, doing the long division or doing multiplication, memorizing your math facts. Reading as well, reading a passage, rereading a passage, writing a passage, rewriting a passage. These types of skills are really about essentialism. So it's going to focus on subjects like reading, math, science, and history. And it's very teacher-centered. And it's very like direct instruction centered. And a lot of college professors are like this as well. They stand in the front of the room. They give you the knowledge. You practice the knowledge. And again, you might say, well, that's old fashioned, and it certainly is, but we still do this in education. It's very important when we memorize math facts, when we memorize vocabulary words, when we are doing reading drills and things like that. That's all essentialism. And so it's that old school drill and practice, sort of open the brain, pour the knowledge in, and then memorize and kind of use that rote memory in order to learn. Then we get into like progressivism. And this is when Dewey kind of hits the scene. Dewey is a philosopher in education. And this is all about learning by doing. So people who are progressivists believe that students have to actually do the task. So in order to learn about science, you have to, get your hands dirty, get in there and really do the science. In order to understand math, you have to kind of be given a problem where you have to figure it out and struggle with it a little bit. In order to, understand English and things like that, you have to actually do the English rather than just watch the teacher doing the task in the front of the room. You have to participate in the act of doing the thing. Okay. So education is learning by doing, and that is progressivism. Now, the next one, which built off of progressivism, is Reconstructionism. Now, this advocates for addressing social issues in school. So people who identify with Reconstructionism focus on social, economic, and political issues. So a lot of English teachers are like this. A lot of social studies teachers are like this. The goal, though, is not to teach students what to think. It's to present the students with political issues, with, current events and things like that, and show them how to find the information. And then they determine how they feel about it. But people who are Reconstructionists believe that school is a microcosm of society and that it's very important for us to provide the foundation of students to think critically about these issues and ultimately impact the world regarding these issues. Again, it's not on any one political side. I want to be clear on that because we have a very divided country right now. And a lot of people believe that Reconstructionists are like indoctrinating students and things like that. That's not true. Reconstructionists believe that there are a lot of important social issues that must be addressed. We don't teach students how to think about this. We present them with all the facts and all of the books and information we can. We open the floor to discussion, and we allow students to engage with these political events, these political dynamics, and kind of come to their own conclusion and then go out into the world and impact the world in that way. The next is existentialism. And this is more kind of woo-woo education. People might think it's more like new age or whatever. And it's basically that the student is looking for self-expression, and that education should be the foundation of that self-expression. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not learning, the basics and things like that, but ultimately we want education to help students discover who they are. And that's a very abstract, right? But existentialists believe that when we read, when we write, when we discover things in science and social studies and things like that, it's all coming down to building up our self-actualization. Who are we? What are we going to give to the world? And all of that self-reflection and kind of breaking down why we think about a thing the way we think about it, or why we do the things we do, is all about education. And that's the purpose of education, is to build the self-actualization within the student. Then there's constructivism. Now, this one is pretty big now. I mean, this is the way a lot of teachers are taught now. And it has its roots in progressivism. And constructivism is that students bring, and teachers as well, bring their own experiences to the learning and the teaching. And that what results is a perspective of the world, and students kind of construct their own knowledge from what they're learning in the book, and what they're learning in school, but also what they're bringing in with them, their life experiences, the lenses through which they see the world. The same with teachers. Teachers, when they come and they stand in front of the room and they're teaching students about whatever, science, math, social studies, English, PE, anything like that, they are bringing their experiences from the world, and kind of it infiltrates the teaching and the learning at that point. So constructivism is all about believing learners construct their own understanding and knowledge in the world through their experiences and reflection. That's why there are a lot of questions on your certification exam about like reflection journals, teacher reflection, student reflection. That's all grounded in constructivism. And then another kind of little straggler philosophy here is behaviorism. This is B.F. Skinner's kind of philosophy. And that basically says that the environment around the students and the teachers impacts their behavior and how they interact with the learning. This has a lot to do with conditioning students. If you use a lot of routines and procedures in your classroom, which is a very good thing, you are subscribing to that behaviorism, where students learn their rules and procedures. They come in, it's very orderly. And people who are behaviorists believe that if students and teachers can condition themselves to do these things, they will have a positive result based on that. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, I'm a little bit of all of these things. You would probably be correct. I know very few teachers who are just one of these philosophies. Now, I do know teachers who lean a little more towards, Reconstructionism and Constructivism versus Perennialism, but I'll just use myself as an example here. I absolutely am an essentialist when it comes to English language arts. I believe that there are certain works that everyone should read just to enhance their own understanding of the literary world. I do think that a literary canon is a good thing if it's representative of all people. A lot of times it's kind of skewed all one way, but I do believe there are certain works from the Harlem Renaissance that everyone should read. From the 1920s, everyone should read. Homer and Milton. I believe if you are going to be an English professor or an English teacher, that you should at least dabble a little bit in those works. I think it's very important, but I don't stay there. That's something that's kind of the baseline. And I believe that those things can enhance. So I will just use myself as an example. So I definitely have perennial and essentialist type views. I believe that there is a literary canon for a reason. Even though I hated reading Milton in college and Homer in high school, I do believe that that positively impacted my life, and that if you're going to be an English teacher, that it would benefit you to read those works, those old school works. I also believe in drill and practice in essentialism. I believe that, practicing over and over again is how you get good at something. Math facts, math skills, reading, writing, all of that takes practice. And so I'm right there in perennialism and essentialism. I don't stay there for too long, but I am there. I'm definitely a part of the progressivism movement as well. I do believe that students learn by doing, but when I go back to that perennialism and essentialism, I believe students also like that direct instruction where the teacher is standing in the front of the room and giving the information. And so along with that, I do believe in, labs and hands-on activities and project-based learning and all of that stuff that goes with John Dewey and progressivism. Now, to my core, I am a Reconstructionist, and I do believe that schools are mini societies, and that as teachers, it's our jobs to present students with all of the information and guide them on how to think, not what to think, but how to think, and to encourage them to impact the world in a positive way. I do believe that at my core. Now, there are a lot of people who disagree with that belief, and they think, oh, you're just a teacher. You shouldn't have any political views. You shouldn't put your political views on students. And I would agree. You shouldn't put your political views on students, but it is our job, in my opinion, to present students with current events, all of the facts, and show them how to find information on their own so they can then make decisions about the world and vote and do all these things that are really important in society. I do believe that that is my job as an educator. And I have a little existentialism in me as well. I think students should, try to find themselves in learning and reading and understanding math and science and all of that in the world. I'm definitely a constructivist as well. I believe that students bring their experiences to the classroom and that I bring my own experiences to the classroom. A lot of the reasons why I am the way I am is from the teachers whom I have encountered, my professors in college, my English teachers in high school. They greatly impacted the way I see the world and how it opened my mind to the world. And so, of course, I'm going to come with that when I teach my students or other teachers on this YouTube channel. I am a constructivist as well. And then for sure, if you've seen any of my videos on routines and procedures and things like that, I have a little bit of behaviorism in me as well. So I lean more towards Reconstructionism, like that's kind of the root of who I am as a teacher, but I'm also all of those other things. Now, you might be someone who's like, nope, I am just an essentialist and a perennialist. I teach PE. There are certain procedures I want my students to do. There are certain things I want them to do to live a healthy lifestyle. I am not here to talk about the world or politics or society or anything like that. I am here to teach them how to live a healthy lifestyle and be lifelong fitness people. And that is my job. That's amazing. We need teachers like that as well, who are just focused on those things. You might be an art teacher and you might be like, I am just an existentialist. I think students should do whatever they want in my art class to find themselves and learn more about themselves. We all love that art teacher, right? Or that English teacher there, or that math teacher. Some math teachers are existentialists. I don't want to put everybody in a box, but a lot of times it's the art teacher who is the existentialist. But I have encountered many art teachers who are perennialists, and they believe that the classics, understanding the classics, is the foundation of being an artist. So you can't really put anybody in one box. And I would encourage you, to really explore these particular philosophies before you subscribe to any one. But as you start to begin your teaching career, and as you start, if you haven't done that yet, and you're starting to learn about becoming a teacher, you start to kind of say, hey, I kind of identify with that for sure. I identify with all of these a little bit, but this is the one that I really identify with most. And when we understand that, we can better answer questions about why do we want to become a teacher. You might get that in your interview. And it might be, I'm a math teacher and I believe there are foundational skills in math that every student needs in order to be successful in life. And I believe it's my job to help them do that. That's an essentialist. That's a perennialist. That is important for sure. Or you might be someone who is like, I want to help my students find themselves, understand the world around them, reflect on who they are. Then you would be, a Reconstructionist, existentialist, progressivist sort of teacher. It all depends on why you're coming to the podium to teach and also how you've been influenced. And again, there is no right or wrong philosophy. There just is. And you may be part of all or some of these particular ways of thinking about education. All right, so that is it today for Philosophies of Education. You can get more about this that's the first chapter in Teach, a survival guide for new educators. Also in the book is classroom management, lesson planning. I mean, everything that you need for the first 3 years of teaching is in this book. We have a ton of 5-star reviews. Let me show you where you can get it. So just hop on over to Amazon and you can just Google Kathleen Jasper Teach, and this will come up. You can see we have 67 5-star ratings. I have really enjoyed reading the reviews on this book. It makes me so happy. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. You can just add it to your library, or it's $9.99 on Kindle. And then of course there is the paperback, the one that I was holding here, and that is $14.99. So you can get that on Amazon. Check it out there. I think you'll love it. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Try to figure out what your philosophy of education is. And if you're looking for more support, get that book, Teach, a survival guide for new educators. It will definitely help you. I wish you luck and have a great day.